Commander Elias Cade stood tall in the shining Hall of Unity, deep within the Galactic Council's headquarters. Flags from 100 different planets waved gently above his head, and soft alien music echoed across the massive chamber. Today was supposed to be a victory for Earth. After years of effort, Elias had finally convinced the Zalareth Empire to sign a peace and trade treaty with humanity. He had studied their culture, learned their language, and endured months of cold, difficult diplomacy. And now, with the treaty ready, the whole galaxy was watching. It would mean equal rights for Earth, access to key star routes, and recognition as a respected member of the interstellar community. Elias glanced across the hall. There she was, Ambassador Sira Velnar of the Zalareth Empire. She was tall, elegant, and cold as ice. Her skin shimmered faintly, a natural trait of her species, and her long dark robes made her look like royalty. She looked at Elias with a smile that didn't reach her golden eyes. "I trust everything is in order, Commander Cade," she said, her voice calm and sharp like glass. Elias gave a small nod. "It is. We are honored to share peace with the Zalareth Empire." The crowd of diplomats and officials clapped politely. 2 ceremonial droids floated forward, each holding a copy of the treaty. One floated to Elias, the other stopped beside Sira. Then came the moment. Sira raised her hand to sign, but paused. The entire room went silent. "I believe the humans should read the hidden clause before celebrating," she said loudly, her voice carrying across the chamber. Elias frowned. "Hidden clause?" Sira tapped a section of the document. A screen above them lit up. A new paragraph appeared, one Elias had never seen before. "To ensure galactic stability," the clause read, "Earth agrees to become a protected territory under Zalareth supervision. All trade routes and defense efforts will be overseen by Zalareth representatives for a minimum of 50 years. The hall erupted in murmurs. Elias's heart dropped. This isn't what we agreed on." Sira smiled wider. "You should have read more carefully, Commander. It was in the fine details added in the last revision. You never sent us that version." "I did. Perhaps Earth was too slow to notice." Elias looked at the council representatives, expecting outrage. Instead, they looked away, uncomfortable. Some even nodded quietly in support of the clause. The council speaker, a large creature with soft blue skin and 7 eyes, stepped forward. "We vote to accept the updated treaty. Earth's inclusion as a protectorate ensures peace." Elias stood frozen. The treaty had just turned Earth from a partner into a junior subject. They would have no control over their own space. No vote. No voice. "This is a trick," he said, his voice low. Sira leaned closer, her tone quiet but cutting. "This is diplomacy. You trusted too easily. Welcome to the real galaxy, Commander." Hours later, Elias sat alone in his temporary quarters. He hadn't spoken a word since the ceremony. His team had tried to reach him, but he turned off his communicator. His hands were clenched, his mind racing. Everything they'd worked for, taken away in one moment. News spread quickly. Galactic media painted Earth as foolish and weak. Some called Elias naive. Others simply laughed. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how calm Sira had been. She had planned this from the beginning. She knew Earth was desperate for acceptance, and she had used that desperation to make them kneel. Elias looked at his reflection in the dark window. His sharp brown eyes were full of frustration, but not anger. No, what filled him now was something else. A cold, growing silence inside him. He would not fight this with weapons. Earth couldn't win that kind of war, but diplomacy could be its own kind of battlefield. And Elias had just learned how cruel and sharp it could be. The next morning, Elias resigned from his post. He sent a short message to Earth Command. "They didn't defeat us. They exposed us. Let me disappear now, and trust I will return when the time is right." Then he left. No one knew where he went. He vanished from all public records. Rumors spread. Some said he joined pirates. Others claimed he went into hiding in an outer system. But one thing was certain. Elias Cade was not done. And deep in the Shadows of the galaxy. A plan had already begun to form. Slow, patient, and full of quiet fury. Commander Elias Cade disappeared from the eyes of the galaxy. The grand halls of the Galactic Council no longer saw him. Earth's public leaders moved on, believing their commander had given up. But Elias was far from finished. For weeks, he traveled alone in a small, unmarked ship. It was old and slow, compared to the large Zalarith cruisers, but it was quiet and invisible to most sensors. Elias didn't need fame or glory anymore. He needed secrecy and time. He landed on a small planet called Alaris, a forgotten world on the edge of explored space. It was dusty and rough with red rocks and little water. Few species called it home, but Elias knew it well. This was a place where many who escaped from powerful empires came to hide. On Alaris, Elias found the kind of allies Earth had no idea existed. Fringe species, traders, and exiles all mixed here. Most were treated unfairly by the Zalarith Empire, ignored or punished for defying orders. They did not trust humans at first, but Elias's reputation gave him respect. One such ally was Rila, a small creature with 4 arms and bright green skin. She was a skilled pilot and smuggler. She met Elias at a crowded market full of alien languages and strange foods. "You look like you carry the weight of a dozen worlds," Rila said, eyeing him carefully. Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe just one world, Earth." Rila laughed. "You humans always think you carry the world on your shoulders. Come, let me show you something." Together, they moved through the market, past stalls selling rare star crystals and black market tech. Elias's sharp eyes caught whispers of Zalarith patrols looking for him. He knew he had to act fast. In a hidden warehouse, Elias met a group of rebels and outcasts. They called themselves the Free Systems Alliance. Their ships were old and battered, but their spirits were strong. They told Elias about Zalarith's control, colonies forced to pay high taxes, important planets blocked from trading, and voices silenced by fear. Elias listened carefully. These stories were the truth behind the shiny speeches he had heard in the Galactic Council. The Zalarith Empire kept peace, yes, but only by keeping many under its heel. He realized Earth was not the only victim. Many species suffered quietly, afraid to speak out. What if we could change that? Elias asked. Gearbaum. Rebels looked at him in surprise. "We have no power," one said. "The Empire is too strong." "But they fear what they cannot control," Elias replied. "If we expose their lies, their crimes, we can weaken their grip." Days turned into weeks. Elias built a small network of contacts. He sent secret messages back to Earth leaders, urging patience. "The time will come," he promised. He also worked with scientists and engineers, collecting data on Zalarith trade routes and military movements. Each piece was another arrow in his invisible quiver. Meanwhile, Earth slowly recovered from its humiliation. New diplomats tried to rebuild trust with other empires. Some praised Elias's silence, saying he gave Earth a chance to heal. But those who knew him best waited and hoped. One night, Elias sat under Alaris's 2 moons, looking at the stars. His mind wandered back to the treaty ceremony, and Sira Velnar's cold smile. How easily she had crushed Earth's hopes, how cleverly she had hidden the trap. His heart burned, not with anger, but with determination. This was not defeat. This was the start of something new. Back on Earth, the people had mixed feelings about Elias's disappearance. Some called him a hero who had sacrificed everything. Others whispered he was a coward who abandoned his post. But the truth was more complex. Elias had chosen a harder path, one of patience, secrecy, and long-term strategy. He knew he couldn't fight the Zalarith with armies. Their fleets were too big, their power too great. Instead, he decided to fight with truth. If he could show the galaxy what the Zalarith Empire really was, he could change opinions. He could make allies of those who suffered under the Empire's rule. He could build a force stronger than weapons, a force of justice and hope. As Elias worked in the shadows, strange messages began to reach the Galactic Council. Anonymous reports of illegal Zalarith activity appeared in news feeds. Videos showed colonies in distress, starships seized without cause, leaders silenced by force. At first, the council dismissed these as lies or rumors, but more evidence kept coming, too much to ignore. Sira Velnar watched these reports with growing worry. The carefully built image of the Zalarith Empire as a fair and strong power was cracking. She sent agents to find the source of the leaks, but no one could trace them. Elias's plan was working. On Elaris, Elias stood before the Free Systems Alliance once again. This time, he was no longer just a visitor. He was a leader. Change will not come from war, he said, but from truth. We will show the galaxy the real face of the Empire, and when they see it, they will choose a new path. The rebels cheered quietly. Elias knew the road ahead would be long and dangerous. But he was ready, because sometimes revenge was not a quick strike. It was a slow fire that burned away lies and fear, and Elias Cade was ready to light that fire. The stars outside the viewport twinkled cold and distant as Elias Cade's ship cruised silently through the frontier system. The ship was small but fast, an old model retrofitted with quiet engines and advanced stealth systems. No one on the Galactic Council would have guessed that the once prominent human commander now operated here, far from the light of politics and public eyes. Inside the ship's command room, Elias stared at the hollow map of the system before him. His mission was clear: to prepare for a moment no one expected, to reach deep into the heart of Zalarith power, not with weapons but with truth and cunning. His thoughts turned to Sira Velnar, the alien diplomat who had humiliated Earth and shattered his hopes. Now she was older, more powerful, but also more vulnerable than she appeared. Elias had learned that every empire has cracks. His task was to find and widen them. The frontier system was remote, located far beyond the Galactic Council's busiest sectors. It was a patchwork of small planets and asteroid mining colonies, important for trade but often overlooked by the great powers. Sira was scheduled to lead a diplomatic mission here, sent by the Zalarith Empire to secure new trade agreements. It was a routine trip for her, but Elias saw it as an opportunity. He had arranged everything carefully. Using an alias, he was to appear as the envoy of a newly formed independent group claiming rights to rare resources in this system. A perfect cover to meet Sira without suspicion. The ship's AI pinged softly. Approaching rendezvous point, Commander. Elias nodded and prepared the communications channel. The small crew, trusted rebels and traitors, watched quietly at two. The same time, Sira Velnar's sleek diplomatic cruiser entered the system. Her eyes were sharp, but her expression showed a hint of fatigue. Years of navigating politics had taught her caution, but she still believed firmly in her empire's power. Her ship's communications officer announced, "Commander Elias Cade, or the alias you know him by, has requested a summit aboard the neutral station at Cora Base." Sira considered for a moment. Accepting meant risking exposure to a human who had disappeared from the public eye, but ignoring the envoy could signal weakness. With a cool voice, she answered, "Schedule the meeting. I will attend." At Cora Base, a neutral outpost floating in orbit around a barren moon, the two ships arrived almost at the same time. The station was modest, an old relic from early exploration days, but its location made it perfect for quiet meetings. Elias watched from his ship as Sira's cruiser docked. The tension was thick, but Elias kept calm. He reminded himself, this was diplomacy, not battle. The airlock hissed, and Sira stepped into the station's main hall. Her sharp gaze scanned the room. Elias stood waiting near a table, calm and confident. "You look different in person," Sira said, her voice steady but curious. "I didn't expect you to come yourself." Elias smiled faintly. Some things deserve a personal touch. They took seats opposite each other. Around them, guards and aides kept watch, but neither leader flinched. The summit began with formal greetings and a brief exchange of words. Elias spoke carefully, emphasizing respect and the desire for fair trade. Sira listened, but remained guarded. Then, Elias unveiled his true purpose. He activated a holoscreen showing images of devastated colonies, stolen resources, and silenced leaders, all under Zalarith control. Syra's eyes narrowed. These are old stories, exaggerated for effect. Are they? Elias asked calmly. Or are they truths your empire wishes to hide? The room filled with a quiet tension. Syra's pride demanded denial, but the evidence was strong. Elias continued, "The galaxy deserves to know what really happens behind your polished diplomacy." Over the next hours, the two debated fiercely. Elias presented his collected reports and testimonies from the Free Systems Alliance. Syra defended the Empire's actions as necessary for order and peace, but the more Elias spoke, the more cracks appeared in Syra's confidence. She realized this human was not a bitter enemy but a patient strategist. As the summit progressed, Elias let down his guard. He spoke of his hopes for a galaxy where species could trust one another, not be ruled by fear. Syra found herself listening differently, caught between duty and doubt. By the summit's end, Syra surprised herself. She agreed to a private conversation, with Elias away from guards. In the quiet observation deck overlooking the stars, they talked not as diplomat and commander, but as two beings who had seen the cost of power. Syra admitted, "I did not expect you to come prepared with such conviction." Elias replied, "You taught me that strength comes not from force, but from patience and wisdom." The moment was fragile, but real. Elias knew this was only the beginning. His plan to expose the Empire's faults was moving forward, but it needed Syra, willing or not. He watched as she left the station, unsure whether she was an enemy, an ally, or something more complicated. One thing was certain: the game had changed. The quiet hum of the spaceship's engines filled the room as Elias Cade stood before the glowing holoscreen. His eyes scanned the images and reports streaming across the surface. Broken colonies, ruined starports, stolen supplies, and fearful leaders. These were the silent stories of the Zalarith Empire's rule, hidden from most of the galaxy, but painfully real for many. Elias's mission was clear now. This was no longer just about Earth. It was about justice for all who suffered under the Empire's shadow. At the same time, far away on the grand capital world of Zalarith Prime, Lady Sira Velnar sat in her private chambers. Her usual calm was shattered. The summit with Elias had left her shaken in ways she did not expect. She kept replaying the images Elias had shown her, the proof of her empire's harsh control over distant worlds. For the first time, doubt crept in. Had she been blind? Had she been a part of something far darker than she believed? Her advisors urged her to ignore the accusations, to dismiss Elias as a rebel and liar. But Syra could not. There was truth, in his words, and it disturbed her deeply. Elias knew Syra's doubt was the key. He sent secure messages to the Free Systems Alliance. "Prepare to move forward. The time for quiet gathering is ending. The galaxy will soon hear the truth." But Elias also understood one thing. This was not a war of weapons, it was a war of minds, of trust, and of courage. His next step was risky. He would invite Syra to see the real impact of her empire's policies, not through reports or screens, but through faces and voices of those who suffered. On a small, battered colony world named Kara, Elias awaited Syra's arrival. Kara was one of the many planets damaged by heavy taxes and strict control. Its people were tired but hopeful. Syra arrived aboard a modest ship, accompanied by a few guards. She was careful, but there was a new softness in her eyes. Elias greeted her simply. "Thank you for coming." Syra nodded. "I want to understand. I want to see." Over the next days, Elias guided Syra through Kara's towns and villages. They met families who had lost their homes to imperial taxes, farmers whose crops were seized, and children who no longer dreamed of a better future. Syra listened quietly. The faces and stories touched something deep inside her, a growing sense of responsibility and regret. One evening, As they sat beneath Kara's twin suns, setting over the horizon, Sira turned to Elias. "I did not realize the cost," she said softly. "I believed our rule was just." Elias looked at her without anger. "Many believe in their duty, but truth is found in those who suffer." Their journey was not without tension. Some locals distrusted Sira, remembering the pain her empire had caused. Guards whispered warnings. Elias remained patient, knowing change would come slowly. During their time together, Sira's defenses lowered. She asked questions, not to argue, but to learn. Elias answered honestly, never hiding the harsh realities. Slowly, a fragile trust grew between them. But Elias's plan was bigger than this trip. He had arranged for secret recordings and reports to be sent from Kara to the Galactic Council and independent news networks. The images and testimonies could no longer be hidden. When the broadcasts began, the galaxy reacted with shock. The peaceful image of the Zalareth Empire cracked as millions saw the real effects of its rule. The Council was forced to open investigations. Some leaders demanded reforms. Others called for Sira's removal. Sira faced pressure from all sides. Her loyalty to the Empire was questioned, but so was her new willingness to listen. She sent a message to Elias, simple but powerful. "Meet me. There is much we must decide." Elias prepared for the meeting, knowing their next conversation could change everything. When they met again, this time on a small neutral station, the mood was serious but honest. Sira said, "I want to help, not for politics, but because I see now the pain we caused." Elias nodded. "Change is possible if you stand with truth." The two began discussing plans, not just for exposing the Empire's wrongs, but for rebuilding trust and creating a fairer galaxy. As days passed, their alliance deepened. Elias saw in Sira not an enemy, but a partner willing to face difficult truths. Sira felt a respect for Elias that went beyond their past conflicts, and amid all the tension, an unexpected feeling grew between them, one of understanding and even hope. But the galaxy was watching. Their partnership would not go unnoticed, and powerful forces would try to stop them. Elias and Sira both knew the path ahead was dangerous. Yet, in this unexpected move of patience and truth, a new kind of revenge was unfolding. A revenge that did not destroy, but rebuilt. The soft hum of the diplomatic station surrounded Elias Cade as he watched the stars shimmer beyond the large viewing window. Across the room, Lady Sira Velnar paced quietly, her face thoughtful, but troubled. Their partnership had grown beyond politics. Something deeper was beginning to take shape, though neither dared speak it aloud. For weeks, they had worked together to share evidence of the Zalareth Empire's wrongdoings with the galaxy. The broadcast stirred unrest and many colonies began to speak out. Sira had broken with tradition by standing with Elias publicly, refusing to hide from the growing storm. But in private moments, the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on them both. One evening, Elias and Sira found themselves alone in the quiet observation lounge. The stars stretched infinitely beyond, calm and beautiful, a stark contrast to the turmoil growing in the galaxy. Sira looked at Elias, her voice soft but steady. "I never imagined things would come to this, that I would trust a human and trust you." Elias smiled gently. "Trust is not given lightly. You have earned mine as well." Their eyes met, and for a moment the distance between them faded. Without warning, Sira reached out and took Elias's hand. It was a simple gesture, but full of meaning. Elias's heart quickened, and he did not pull away. In the days that followed, their bond deepened. The walls each had built around themselves softened. They shared stories, hopes, and fears. Two beings from very different worlds finding common ground. One quiet night, the fragile line between duty and desire blurred. In the safety of the station's private quarters, Elias and Sira shared a moment of warmth and connection. It was an act of trust and comfort, not of impulsive passion. For Syra, it was the first time she felt truly seen, not as a diplomat or a symbol of an empire, but as a person. For Elias, it was a reminder that even in the darkest times, light could be found. Days later, Syra received unexpected news. A medical scan confirmed what neither had anticipated. She was pregnant. The revelation stunned her. A child, half human and half Zalareth, was growing inside her. The implications rippled through her mind like waves, political, personal, and unknown. She kept the news private at first, unsure how to face the Empire or Elias. Meanwhile, Elias sensed a change in Syra. She was quieter, more thoughtful, but also stronger in her resolve. He respected her space, waiting for the right moment to speak. When Syra finally told him, it was during a private meeting in the station's garden dome, surrounded by strange alien plants. I am with child, she said simply. This changes everything. Elias looked into her eyes, searching for her truth. It does, he agreed, but it does not change who we are or what we fight for. Syra nodded. No, but it will change how the galaxy sees us and me. The news was a secret they guarded carefully. Syra feared how the Zalareth Empire would react. A diplomat pregnant by a human was unheard of, potentially scandalous. But she also saw hope. Their child could be a symbol of change, a new beginning. For two worlds long divided. As their secret grew, so did their work. Together, Elias and Syra planned to use the child's future as a beacon for peace. Elias sent messages to trusted allies. This child is more than a new life. It is a promise. The promise that we can build a better galaxy. Syra faced her. Empire's leaders with quiet strength, refusing to hide or deny. The Empire's reaction was swift and harsh. Some called for her removal. Others whispered of betrayal. But Syra stood firm, refusing to abandon her duty or her child. The galaxy watched closely. Many were shocked. Some feared the child. Others hoped it would bring healing. Elias and Syra knew their path would be difficult. Enemies would try to use this against them. But they also knew that from unexpected places, great change could grow. Their child, born from a moment of trust and understanding, became a symbol, a living bridge between two worlds. For Elias and Syra, the unplanned consequence of their alliance was not a burden, but a new beginning. Together, they faced the future, with courage, hope, and the quiet strength of a bond that no empire could break. The news spread across the galaxy like a supernova. Lady Syra Velnar, the proud and powerful Zalareth diplomat, was pregnant. Not just with any child, but with a human child. The revelation shocked the Galactic Council, the Zalareth Empire, and every corner of space that watched with keen eyes. Syra had always been a symbol of strength and loyalty for her people. Her pregnancy was a secret she had kept close, revealing it only to Elias Cade in private. But secrets in the galaxy rarely stayed hidden for long. The first to hear were the Zalareth Council members. They gathered in heated meetings on Zalareth Prime. Many saw Syra's condition as a scandal, a betrayal of everything the Empire stood for. "This is a weakness we cannot afford," said one elder, his voice cold and sharp. "The diplomat who allowed a human child to grow in her must be removed." Others whispered of politics and power. Some feared the child might change alliances or shift the balance in ways they could not control. Syra stood before the council, calm but firm. "This child is not a weapon nor a threat," she said. "It is a new life, a chance for understanding." Her words were met with silence. Few could imagine embracing such a future. Meanwhile, across the stars, Elias received messages of support from unexpected places. Colonies and free systems that had suffered under Zalareth rule saw hope in the unborn child. In private communications, Elias told his closest allies, "This child is a symbol, proof that even the deepest divides can be bridged. We must protect that symbol." He began preparing public messages, ready to reveal the truth behind the Empire's control and Syra's courage. The media exploded. News networks broadcast stories of the Zalareth diplomat's pregnancy and the growing movement for reform. Some human leaders praised Sira's bravery, calling for a new era of peace. Others were cautious, wary of the political fallout. Sira found herself at the center of a storm, her every action scrutinized. But she did not retreat. Instead, she chose transparency. In a historic speech broadcast to millions, Sira announced, "I am pregnant with a child who represents more than bloodlines. This child represents unity, hope, and the future of a galaxy that can rise above fear." Her voice was steady, her message clear. The speech sparked both praise and outrage. Many within the Zalareth Empire saw her speech as a betrayal. Some powerful figures began plotting to remove her by any means necessary. At the same time, citizens of various planets rallied behind her, inspired by the possibility of change. Elias stood by her side, speaking to diplomats and leaders across systems. "We face resistance," he said, "but this is the moment to stand firm." Sira's pregnancy also changed her personally. She felt stronger, yet more vulnerable. The child growing within her was a constant reminder of what was at stake. She continued her diplomatic work, balancing the pressures of politics with the care for her unborn child. Elias often visited her, providing quiet support. Their relationship deepened, rooted in trust and shared purpose. The scandal forced the Galactic Council to act. After much debate, they voted to launch a formal investigation into Zalareth policies. This was a major victory for Elias and Sira, showing that even the most powerful empires could be held accountable. But danger remained. Sira received threats. Elias's network uncovered plots to undermine their efforts. Still, they refused to back down. Instead, they used the attention to push forward reforms and build alliances. The unborn child was no longer just a secret or scandal. It was a beacon of possibility. As the galaxy watched, Elias and Sira prepared for the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they hoped to change not just politics, but hearts. And through it all, the quiet power of a nice unexpected bond grew stronger, promising a new dawn for all. The galaxy was changing. The quiet rebellions, the secret meetings, and the growing protests had shifted the balance of power. The Zalareth Empire, once seen as untouchable, now faced calls for reform and justice from many corners. At the heart of this change were two unlikely figures: Elias Cade, the human who had once been humiliated and cast aside, and Lady Sira Velnar, the proud Zalareth diplomat who carried his child. Elias stood on the balcony of the Galactic Council headquarters, overlooking the bustling city below. The stars twinkled in the early evening sky, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy and the challenges ahead. He felt a calm strength within him. Years ago, he had been defeated publicly, betrayed by politics and power. Now he was a respected leader, trusted by many species and feared by those who clung to old ways. Beside him, Sira appeared, radiant despite the weight of her position and pregnancy. She smiled softly. "The galaxy watches us," she said. "Some with hope, others with fear." Elias nodded. Change always brings fear, but it also brings opportunity. Together they had worked tirelessly to build alliances between species long divided. Elias's knowledge of human resilience and Sira's diplomatic skill formed a powerful combination. The Galactic Council had begun restructuring. New laws were proposed to ensure that no empire could control others through force or fear. Instead, cooperation, respect, and fairness were the foundation. Sira often thought of the child growing inside her. This child, half human and half Zalareth, symbolized a new future. Not just for their two worlds, but for the entire galaxy, she whispered to Elias one evening. "Our child will live in a different galaxy, a galaxy of peace." Elias smiled, "And we will make sure that happens." Not all were pleased with the changes. Hardliners within the Zalareth Empire still resisted. They saw Elias and Sira's partnership as a threat to their power and traditions, but the voices of reform were louder. Citizens across many planets demanded fairness and respect. Sira's bravery inspired many. She was no longer just a diplomat. She was a leader of a new era. The day finally came when the Galactic Council officially recognized Elias as Earth's senior ambassador. It was a moment of pride and justice. Elias gave a speech that echoed across the stars. We once stood humiliated, dismissed, and silenced. But through patience, truth, and courage, we have begun to build a galaxy where all species have a voice. Sira stood beside him, her hand resting gently on her growing belly. Together, they faced challenges, political battles, threats, and skepticism, but they never wavered. Their partnership showed the galaxy that understanding and respect could overcome even centuries of distrust. And in the quiet moments, they looked forward to the child who would be born, a living symbol of unity. As the galaxy moved forward, Elias and Sira worked to ensure that no one would be forgotten or silenced again. Their story became one of hope, proving that sometimes the greatest power lies not in weapons or armies but in patience, truth, and the courage to change.